Good evening, everyone, and welcome to This Week from Rockdale. And as usual, I am your host, Larry Cox. And we were originally going to have Arlan Gibson on here tonight, but Arlan was traveling. Him and his wife had went on, I think, an anniversary trip this weekend, and then he had some issues with his phone, and his phone got deleted, and he had all kinds of problems. So Arlan's going to reschedule. I'm going to get him on this week at some point, do a special show. I'm already doing a Wednesday show this week. So what's another night, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get Arlan in on another night tonight, this coming week, and make that happen. But it just so happens I was able to get us a very special guest tonight. I was able to get the founder of Voice for Rockdale, Miss Corliss Turner, to come on here tonight and talk to you a little bit about what's going on with Voices for Rockdale during this election cycle, the literature that they're putting out there, and just the research that they've been able to accomplish with their team here in the last, several years to just make sure that you, the citizens, are aware of what's actually going on. Because we're going to talk about misinformation tonight and the king of misinformation at some point. So without further ado, let me welcome you all, Miss Corliss Turner. Hello, Corliss. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Larry, for having me on the show. It's such short notice, but when duty calls, and it's important that the citizens are made aware of things. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is I think a very special election cycle that we're in. I think with everything that's been going on with the last 6 years of just the overwhelming tax increases that the citizens of Rockdale County have faced from all three entities, the Board of Commission, the Board of Education, and the City of Conyers. And just with projects that are being pushed down people's throat, the taxpayers' vote, when they've said no to things. And you'll have government officials that said, "Well, you said no, but we said yes," and
Correct.
it's difficult for people to swallow. And I think this election cycle, there could be lessons to learn from some elected officials who may lose their jobs over not listening to the public, and we'll yet to see, but I think we will see. So, Corliss, why don't you just open up a little bit, tell everybody about yourself a little bit, and after you do that, then we'll proceed with talking about some issues in the county.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am excited to be here, and I am excited to be able to make comment for longer than 3 minutes. And I'm Corliss Turner, the founder of Voices for Rockdale, which was created in 2020 when I went to the first millage hearing that they were going to increase the millage rate. I knew nothing about government. I didn't fully understand millage, but I knew it had something to do with my taxes. At that time, it was only about 4 or 5 of us that spoke at the millage hearing. And fortunately, that year they reduced the millage to 16.69. I am from Chicago. I am a retired fraud investigator. I was a union steward in Chicago for CWA for 8 years, union steward here in Georgia for 3 years with the same union, CWA. I have 4 children, 9 grandchildren, and I've always been the type of person that I investigate what someone tells me. I have to know the facts because it's so easy to repeat something someone say and then find out it's a lie. And I think with my fraud background, that has just made it more important for me to find out the facts. So then Voices for Rockdale grew. I didn't think it was going to grow. We had 200 members when we had our first meeting, July 28th at the country club, and now we have almost 1,100. We do a lot of open records requests, but one thing I want you all to know is not just me by myself. I have an advisory board, and the advisory board members or board members, they're very gifted and talented in various areas. Matter of fact, they teach me and educate me so that when I post something, I can quote it correct. We have great researchers. We have one advisory board member. She does government contracts, so she knows how to read the legal language. We have one that does accounting. So we have, and most of them have been in the county for a long time and been involved in the county with no success. Same way it feels like with Voices for Rockdale. But with citizen involvement, I do believe that we can make a change, and hopefully that with this election, you all will uh, make that change, because we are the government and we have control of who runs our county.
We do, and a lot of times, unfortunately, the government or the elect, and you know what? They're not the government; they're the elected officials, and you are
Right.
so correct about that. It is the government of the people, by the people, and for the
For
people,
the people,
right?
correct.
And we occasionally have our elected officials who go astray, and they forget this. I think the biggest culprit of this is the chairman of Rockdale County right now at this time.
Yes.
It's Oz Nesbitt, because he continuously tells us, and it irritates me beyond belief when he starts this. We've got to educate the public. We got to educate you. Um, Contrary to what he believes, a lot of the public is educated to what's going on, and they understand that he is doing things against their will, and he's trying to be real slick and
Right.
trick them into believing they don't understand why he's doing what he's doing. And
Exactly.
then I think that's one of the things Voices has been able to do a good job of, is through the open records request and through the information gathering, is show, no, you're doing this because you want to,
Right.
not because you have to.
Well,
Uh,
thank you,
what,
Larry.
I mean, what do you think, Corliss? When you see the chairman doing that and he starts that "let me educate you" thing, and I've noticed when he does that, you guys get a little, the Voices gets a little more fired up, and y'all get a little more aggressive in your research. Would I be correct to say that?
Yes, yes. He has a habit of saying misinformation, and lately he started using the words street committee. Yes, we are the street committee because we're taking it to the streets and we're informing citizens. And we have started putting together fact sheets to be passed out to the community with facts, and tell them where they can find it, as well as they can send an email to us and get the complete open records request.
Yeah, I mean, just some of the things that he claims is misinformation is just, I mean, it's just like when they used to have this video that they used to show about the millage rate, and it was
Yes,
such a propaganda film, and it wasn't accurate. And then it's just like members of the Board of Education will say, "We lowered your taxes, we lowered the millage rate." They don't even understand how they're setting the tax rate. And I think, I'll be honest, I don't think the Board of Commission totally gets uh,
right,
how they're setting the tax rate, right? So, because they
right.
keep saying, well, we lowered the millage rate, we lowered the millage rate. Yeah, but you raise taxes because the property assessment values went up. And to actually lower taxes, you
Right.
have to take that
The
millage
road.
rate below the rollback rate. The rollback rate makes it even, okay? Below the rollback rate actually lowers taxes.
Well, let me say this. When they say that they lowered the millage rate, they are absolutely correct. But what they don't realize, or what citizens don't realize, because we get do open records requests and we get the tax digest, and they have lowered the millage rate, the Board of Education, by a tenth. I think last year was the first time they ever lowered it by a whole meal.
But
So,
you do know why they lower it by just a tenth? Do you know why?
no, tell me, Larry.
Because it's in the superintendent's contract
True.
that if he lowers the millage rate, that qualifies him for a bonus.
You're
So
absolutely
they lower it a tenth of a percent,
right.
so he meets that qualifier to get a bonus.
Exactly.
That's why they do it. And if you lower it a tenth of a percent when the assessed values go up, I mean, I actually have some statistics right here. I'm going to tell you. So the Board of Education in 2018 raised your taxes 8%. In 2019, the Board of Education raised your taxes 7.2%. In 2020, they raised your taxes 13.8. In 2021, the Board of Education raised it 2%. 2022, 11.6. 2023, 12.7.
Right.
So they have raised your millage rate every single time, but
Right.
every time that they've raised your millage rate, they have at least lowered. Raise your take. They've at least lowered the millage rate by a
Military.
tenth of a percent
Exactly.
each time, so that the
Exactly.
superintendent will qualify for a bonus.
Exactly.
So they all do that trickery thing. So
Right.
I want to ask a question, and this is a interesting thing I want to ask here. So the chairman on the Rockdale Voter, which I'm part of the co-founder of, we
Right.
have got some of the stuff on our website about the misconduct of the chairman. Now
Yes.
and I know you were a former investigator and you started looking into the chairman. Could you
Yes.
tell us, Cormus, do you see a pattern of behavior of the chairman, no matter what job or where he's been? Is there a pattern of behavior that seems to follow this individual?
Yes, Larry. There is a pattern of behavior. As you stated, that I am a fraud investigator, and I was hearing rumors about him being into law enforcement, and he got fired for misconduct, and I just had to find out what it was. So we did an open records request for the GA post, which is for law enforcement. And what we got back from them was that there were two college students that had went to the store and came out, and he was sitting there, and he asked them where were they going. They told him, and he told one to go head on and told the other one to get in the car. Now I want you all to understand, everything that comes out my mouth, we can back it up with open records requests. This is exactly what's in there. He went in this particular young lady's bra, then he went into her panties, and he said that he was looking for drugs. I guess she reported it and picked him out in a photo lineup, and he said he was on special assignment. When they investigated it, there was no special assignment. So he was on suspension, and they attempted several times to try to get him to take a lie detector test, and it would always come back. They couldn't find him. So eventually they end up decertifying him as law enforcement for the entire state of Georgia. But I want you all to understand, he took an oath, okay, in Augusta. And then again, that was several years ago, probably 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago. But the point is that December the 10th of 2019, Chairman signed the employee policy, which is non-discrimination and non-harassment. February of 2020, 2 months later, he sent a sexual offensive video to a code enforcement employee. So he violated that policy. When she attempted to show it to her manager, which was a Doug Chandler of code enforcement, he said he didn't want to see it. There were several county employees of management, including HR, that she reported this to. Nobody would do anything. They end up terminating her. She ended up going to the EEOC in 2021, and they just settled her case October of 2023. She received $85,000, and the attorney fees was $56,656. That's $141,000. Then November the 7th, and it's on the agenda. Everything I say, we can send it to you. They promoted Doug Chandler to Deputy Director of Code Enforcement. So we did open records requests to see who was the previous Deputy Director of Code Enforcement. They said there was no incumbent. Now you can figure that out yourself, right? He got a pay increase. We asked for his pay. His pay increase went from $101,000 to $108,000. And now he's the new deputy director. These cases are in the federal case log, not in the local. So we tapped into there, and there's several other cases. They have settled for former employees, EEOC, in the tune of $750,000.
Well, I want to bring up too. I don't know if you guys did ORRs or research on. Did you guys happen to do any ORR research on the former chief of staff Corey Hamrick and the former director of public relations George Diaz?
No, we didn't do one on Corey, but we did do one on George Diaz. And he turned in a resignation to Chairman Nesbitt. During the turning in the resignation, Nesbitt chewed him out. I don't know if cussed him out or chewed him out, but it ended up George, he did not go to the EEOC. He had the recording and he played it in Commissioner Washington, and Williams felt it was better to give him a severance pay. And so he got severance pay, and his severance pay was in the tune of $60,000 plus 150 some hours of, I guess, PTO time. We also have the recording that when the three of them met to discuss this, Chairman Nesbitt said, yes, I chewed his, I think he said ass out. Yes, I chewed him out. And Cherry said, well, I'm an attorney, and it's better for us to settle with him because he has a good case for toxic environment. So the chairman's mouth has caused us a lot of problems, a lot of dollars.
Well, Alex and I actually did a special show regarding that before, and we
Mhm.
actually showed all that footage on the show and discussed it, and it was something else because
I wish
you
I
get
had
you,
sent you that recording so you could play a tidbit of it tonight.
yeah, it was very interesting. Like I said, we actually did a special show on that, and it was interesting. And then actually Corey Hamrick, whether you're aware of this or not, he worked at the commission office for about 6 months. Was
Mhm.
not allowed to go to work, was not allowed to be in the same building as the chairman,
Oh,
but
wow.
received benefits and pay. Okay,
Right,
and it was a similar kind of situation to where another toxic work environment, and like I said, it's not only the sexual deviancy thing that we see, but it's
right.
also it's also a behavior of intolerance
Hmm.
and just bulliness that
Right,
I think we see with when he gets something in his head and he just has a vendetta against these employees. This bully comes out in him,
right.
and it's just and it's crazy. And you're right, all of these situations have cost the taxpayers of Rockdale County hundreds of thousands of dollars in payouts and buyouts. And let's just be real, okay? We have had multiple directors and assistant directors of
Yes,
every single department over the last 8 years while he's been the chair. And I'm
right,
talking, we've had at least four directors of every department. Every single department, we've had almost four directors. We've had multiple assistant directors. And I do know, I mean, I've got my ear on the street right now, and I'm, not going to go into detail about it, but I do know we have a lot of craziness going on in RDOT right now. And I think that's all going to explode and come out at some point too, because, it is. I mean, things are going to happen.
let me just share this with you too, Larry. And I have not posted it only because of the other people in the conversation. I was sent a screenshot of a post from 2012 when he was running, and it was, and this has his name up there, and it says, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Sellout," and it had some more conversation. It said, "We're watching you." Several people that commented, some of them said rats. Some of them even said black bastards. So I just put two and two together, and I feel like the sellouts he's talking about was the black citizens selling out, maybe not voting for him. So I'm just bringing this up, and I won't post it because of the other people. I don't. I did look at their Facebook page, but I don't want to put them on the spot when it's actually him that put them in that situation. But here's my thing is that this behavior has been this behavior for a long time. He actually think that he is the king of Rockdale County. Can't nobody touch him. Now that's something that I've seen myself. So I don't like to repeat what I heard, but I heard something similar. How he feels like he's not worried about this being reelected. And Rockdale citizens, we have to just show him who is really in charge, who's paying his salary. Oh, somebody said Rosalind Miller. Correct. Rosalind Miller, she received a settlement of $345,000 through EEOC.
Yes.
And we did an open records request on her.
Yes.
This information was shared with us, and it was non-disclosure. So it shouldn't have been shared. We saw the checks, um, just to show the incompetence of the county. They just Charlotte's up here. I'm reading this. They're pushing me faster than I want to go, or maybe faster than you want to go. Larry, it's your show. I wanted you to kind of
No,
lead.
no, no, we're good. I was letting you talk because I was
Okay,
actually doing something here. We're something
okay,
that's going to
okay.
happen in a moment. So,
So
but I'll go ahead and we're
I
good.
want to say go back to that sexual offensive video. This has been posted. We have been given permission to post it and sending a massive email. When we asked for the open records request, they sent us everything except the EEOC intake statement, which is when that person goes to EEOC and describes what happened. We had to file a complaint with the Attorney General in order to get that. Kelly Hunter has given us permission to post it as well as sending in mass email. She has also trusted me with the video, so I have seen it. And I promised her that I wouldn't show it to anybody. And I'm going to keep that promise. Okay. The commissioners were given, the commissioners are on the same raise train as the judges. So when the judges got raised last year from the legislators, the commissioners got a raise too of 16.5 that was effective June 30th for 2023.
Yeah, that was through local legislation,
Yes,
through the legislature. Yes.
yes, 16.5. And
Yeah,
they got a
and
$5,000 bonus, I think it was, from the state, $2,000 cost of living increase.
right, right. And I
This,
did want to mention something too. We do need to talk about the 38% that they gave themselves
that's
this
what I was
year.
getting ready to chime in.
Go
Less
ahead.
than a year later, I believe it was in January, the 1st of February, they voted themselves in a 38% pay increase effective January of 2025. Now that's less than a year. That's a 50%. Am I correct? 16 plus 16% plus 38%
Hmm.
increase. And they voted that in for themselves. Well, I do want to share that there is a contact that I have in DeKalb County who this has happened to them. It's the OCGA 36-5-24. In 2018, he opposed the same thing and said it was unconstitutional there. He appealed it, and they just recently approved that it can be heard. So it will affect 159 counties, and he's asking that Michael Thurman give back the $1 million of raises that was given because it's unconstitutional for elected officials to vote themselves a raise. So hopefully,
Through a resolution. Yeah. Well,
yes,
Corliss, but let me tell you, there was a law they're supposed to follow and procedures. I do
yes,
want to talk about that because that's the interesting thing. They didn't even follow the
right,
procedures properly and then tried to finagle their way out of it. Why don't you
yes,
explain to the folks what the legality was, what they were supposed to do, how they were supposed to file these things in the
legal
newspaper in
notice,
a certain
right,
time period, and then the
right.
explanation they gave voices.
Yes, they're supposed to file a legal notice once a week for 3 consecutive weeks. So that was not done, and I think they realized that they had only done two. So they tried to cram in emergency legal notices on the February the 14th, February the 21st, February 28th, and I can't remember the other date, but either way, it wasn't 7 days. So they included the county attorney, in the complaint, in the email, and he was saying they gave me the dates, they gave me the links, and I said I looked up the definition of a week, And I sent it back to them that a week is 7 days. It doesn't have to start Sunday, but it's 7 days, right?
Right. Well, but this is the problem about it, right? They missed the deadline.
Yes, they missed the deadline.
If you miss the deadline
Right.
to file for your homestead exemption, what do they tell
Exactly.
you? What do they tell you? I know I've known people who have missed the date. You know what they
Exactly.
say?
You
They
missed
say
the deadline.
you missed
But
the
here's the
deadline. You got to
thing.
file next year.
Right. But here's the thing. If it was qualifying was coming up, so they was trying to get this done before qualifying because then
They wouldn't get a raise if
they
they
couldn't
didn't.
get a raise. So we did send that to the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, and the attorney general, lieutenant governor, and inspector general.
Gotcha.
The sad thing about it is we only heard from the inspector general, and he said it's a local issue. We sent it to the district attorney, but she was in that race. She never responded. Then we sent it to the just to the district attorney. Then we sent it on higher up. So we have a situation here in Rockdale that these elected officials are ignoring us.
They cover up for each other. Well, I'm gonna stop the show for a second because we got another guest coming on, and this guest wants to actually give you a personal message.
Okay.
What's up, Larry?
Hey, Alex, how you doing today? Everybody, we got Alex
you.
McDonald joining the show here this evening, and Corliss, I think he wants to tell you something.
How are you, Corliss? It's good to see you. I wanted to come. Well, thank you. I wanted to come on personally and say thank you to you, Corliss, for getting involved, for starting up this organization, and looking out for the taxpayers of Rockdale County. You know, Larry and I and folks like Charlotte Gellert, we were out there doing what we could, trying to get people to listen, and it was a struggle. So when Corliss stepped up, people started paying attention.
But
And you've been a godsend to this community.
But thank you. But now here's what I'm asking you guys to do. We need your help. We need to continue this journey. We need to continue this mission. So we need the Rockdale voter, and this week in Rockdale, we need to work together, collaborate together, and take this county back by force. But I appreciate that, Allison. Thank you. Welcome to Voices for Rockdale. He joined Voices for Rockdale. You all join our mass email to Alex so you can get more information, because this is just a tip of the iceberg.
I think I'm on the email list.
Okay.
Pretty sure I am. If not, I will certainly sign up. But I'm getting the emails, so I must be on the list.
You must be.
Unless Larry just sends me tidbits.
No, you're on the list, tidbits. Alex. You're on the list. So I tell you what, Alex. Since we got Alex on here, we're going to keep him on here. We're not going to let him go because we're going to talk about some stuff, and Alex has unique insight and information on it because he and I have researched the bejesus out of stuff, right? And Connie Crowley just asked a question about something, right? And I think it's fair. And Alex and I were in on the ground floor with this in 2018. Took a lot of heat. We had pretend people attacking us every day.
Okay.
So and this is the courthouse. So let me ask the question she wrote, Alex. And then I want you to talk about it and Corliss to talk about it, because you know what? We have done a lot of battling. And then we even fought the SPLOST and fought the PFA, and we warned people what was going to happen, and it happened. So her question.
Let me just say this right quick. We got 3 powerhouses here together.
Well,
I am honored to be part of it.
2 and a guy that just showed up.
So what about the courthouse that the people voted against, and now they found a way that to break ground on I think they got 1 point whatever the number or whatever. It's actually going to be $140 million project that Alex and I both know is going to be well over $200 million.
Right.
So that's unacceptable. I agree. So, Alex, why don't you give a little backstory on what actually happened in 2018 when we saw this train wreck happening initially?
Well, I mean, yeah. All right, let's go all the way back to the beginning. I wish I'd have fired up my other software because I have my land plan and everything. The county proposed borrowing $140 million to build a courthouse. In their words, a courthouse. There was no mention of at the time, there was no mention of an administrative complex. It was simply a courthouse. So that immediately raised some red flags because it would have been the most expensive courthouse ever built in the United States. So Larry and I started, I guess, jumping into action, right? Doing research. I was researching the county's finances and realized that the $140 million was the limit of debt that the county could take on based on their what I was calling their credit rating. It was actually the amount of money they were allowed to take on in relation to their assets is what it was. And that number is in every year in the county's annual report. So anyone can find that number. It was right at $140 million, which would have left us no breathing room. If an emergency had taken place and they would have had to take on emergency debt, we wouldn't have been able to do it. State law would have prohibited it. And so Larry and I started looking for alternatives. A perfect alternative would have been Parker Road. And considering the industries that Larry and I are in, we put together our own plan. Larry and I differ on what the cost would have been, but not by much. I think we could have pulled it together for $25 million for a courthouse. Larry was closer to 30. I think you were, Larry. But we were right within the ballpark of each other to build a 240,000 square foot courthouse with holding facilities, 200 something parking spaces, a separate secured area for the sheriff's office. And I put together.
And what was our funding mechanism, Alex?
Would have been SPLOST.
Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't they just allocate $30 million from SPLOST?
They did. The $30 million that would have built this entire project, they're now throwing at this new project. I put together a land plan because there were issues with Restoration Storehouse at Parker Road. So I put together a land plan that carved out a lease parcel for Restoration Storehouse. They would have leased it, I'm sure, for their $12 a year, which is what they're currently getting it for. But it left about 7 acres developable or of a developable land at Parker Road. So then the county went into defense mode and said, well, you can't because the part of that area is required detention or retention, they said. Well, that's simply not true. There's no such thing as required retention that can't be relocated. You can have underground detention. There's an area at Parker Road that's perfect to build, to actually put in a detention pond. So we countered that argument in about 20 seconds flat. Then I can't say that employees were put up to this, but there were some employees who started these anonymous Facebook pages, right, Larry? They adopted these fake personas and started attacking us on Facebook because the fact is we were right. We talked about the cost. I researched the cost of financing these bonds, and it was going to be the $140 million would have cost $320 million over 30 years. Now we're looking at least $140 million over 40 years. So even if you ignore the infrastructure issues that we're going to run into developing this in Old Town Conyers, if you ignore those and just take the $140 million and its financing cost over 40 years, we don't know what kind of rates they're going to get yet, but it's probably going to be $300 million plus simply to service this debt. We're going to bankrupt ourselves is what's going to happen. Right. So the public got to vote on the $140 million plan, and they voted it down overwhelmingly.
70%.
70% said, no, we can't do this. This is irresponsible. And so Larry and I both said, this isn't the end of it, right? Don't think this is the end of it. They're going to find a way to do this. And lo and behold, if they didn't find a way to do it anyway, establishing the PFA, getting that passed behind our backs under the cover of darkness. And here we stand with record high taxes, which are going to have to continue going up to be able to service this debt.
Right.
And yeah, we're in trouble. My belief is we are in trouble. The $140 million is just the beginning. When they break ground and they start running into infrastructure issues, which they are guaranteed to run into, the overages, I think, are going to be immense.
So Connie wants to know how that's legal, and unfortunately, it is legal. Yeah. Because the vote that we took was against the $140 million bonds, which we said no to. Then they found an end run, a way around that, because they knew they would never get general obligation bonds passed. So they found a way, a loophole, to be able to establish a PFA, which would issue revenue bonds. But those revenue bonds are really not revenue bonds. They're general obligation bonds, right, because we're paying for them, and they're just calling them revenue bonds. That's all it is. So you got to look. They were really tricky about how they do this, and this is the same. I know people that are running for this office right now, and one of the positions they say that needs to be changed is this. They say we need a new county attorney, because let me tell you what. The reason they're doing a lot of the things they're doing is because they've got a county attorney advising them how to get around things and do reports. That's exactly what's going on. So there are people that are running for the chairman's office right now that recognize that this county attorney has all along been part of the problem on the backside, actually giving these individuals this legal advice, allowing them to do the things that they're doing.
Yeah,
so
in his defense, that is actually his job.
That is.
And based on that fact alone, he's doing a good job, because he was able to get them to successfully end run around the voters.
He did a very good job of screwing the citizens of Rockdale County.
Yeah,
and that's a really good reason to fire him, right?
Exactly. He's doing such a good job. We need to fire him.
Right. Well, let me say this about the ballot questions. You all said that in 2018, you all voted this down, right? That question was put on the ballot. And so they ignored you all. So what's the purpose of the question? But wait a minute. The HB 741 was put on the ballot for the 5 commissioners, and the citizens overwhelmingly wanted that, right? So we're talking about the Board of Commissioners ignored what the citizens said. The legislators have ignored, where at least 2 of them have ignored. You ask us the question, or the Democrat Party puts the questions on there, but then you ignore the citizens. So
it wasn't just the Democrats that put those questions on there, Corliss. The Republicans put very similar questions on there. So it was both parties, and it was almost every citizen in the county had an opportunity to answer that, and overwhelmingly, no matter what party they belonged to, they said they didn't want a courthouse in Old Town, and they didn't want to spend that kind of money. Both parties.
Let's take parties out of it. What I'm trying to say is the BOC ignored the citizens, the legislators ignored the citizens, because Doreen Carter and Deshaun Kendrick would not vote for the HB 741.
It's because they have their own agenda.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter to them what the taxpayers, what the citizens think. If they have their own agenda, they're going to do whatever it takes to pass that agenda. That's why they're so opposed to 5 commissioners elected by district, because that then makes somebody responsible to us. If I have one person who is directly responsible to my district, I know who to go to if there are problems, and that person is going to have to step up to the plate. Well, they don't want that. They love the ambiguity.
here's what I'm saying. We don't only have a local problem, we have a representative, and I'm glad Deshaun is going to be gone. So maybe next year that HB 741 will pass. But that is, and voices tried to meet with the legislators to talk about this courthouse because they bamboozled them. They thought it was a courthouse, didn't know it was a judicial complex. Yes, they reduced it from 140 to 110, but they didn't have the money to even qualify. And that's what we were trying to tell them, is that they weren't even financial. They basing it on raising the taxpayers' millage.
They reduced it to 110 so that certain members of the local delegation would get behind it. Then they went ahead and added 30 million back in after the fact. So we're back up to the 140. Exactly. Here, the thing is the local delegation, their agenda is shared. Right. If Oz Nesbitt wants to do something and he can convince a portion of at the time there were both Republicans and Democrats, and he was able to convince, well, both sides, quite frankly. But if he can do that, it then becomes their agenda, and it doesn't matter what we want.
Right.
Even the Republican voted for it.
Yeah, the
overwhelming opposition.
Opposition, and it actually caused strains within the party and everything because of that vote. I mean, it was an ugly situation. That whole vote was.
But so, he is a smooth talker. But people have to look at his actions. That's what you have to look at, is people actions and their behavior. That tells who they are. And when someone show you who they are, you need to believe that, because this didn't just start happening. Everybody keeps voting incumbent. But we have to, the three of us have to get out there and educate the citizens. We have this fact sheet, and we have ran off 3,000 copies where there are teams passing these out. And if anybody else wants some to pass out, we need to get them out in those streets. It's going to take us. These candidates need some help.
Let me answer some questions people that Bill Campbell wanted to say. He said the 140 million thing was more than a non-binding. That was more than it was, but it was specific to the $140 million bond. It was, we did not want that specific. That was the only thing that was binding to, is that we did not want that $140 million obligation bonds passed. It didn't go any further than that. They have the ability to request additional bonds or bring it back up. It just stopped that one effort for those one-binding bonds. Then you had those non-binding questions, which both parties asked, which should have sent a clear message of the direction that the county wanted, the citizens want to go, and that was ignored. Then some people had some question with where I said a minute ago about the $30 million from SPLOST. 20 million, yeah. But, let's be real, guys. They tried to go back to the well and get some more money for the parking garage. Bill Campbell went ballistic on them and couldn't even get a motion to actually to make a motion to actually spend the money out of SPLOST after Bill blew a gasket on them for going back to the well. So, these people are shameless and they want to go back to the well. But my point about the SPLOST at that point was, back in the day, they told us we can't use any SPLOST dollars for a courthouse because it'll bankrupt the county. We won't have parks. We won't have police cars. We won't have fire trucks. We can't spare one dime of the SPLOST money to go to a courthouse, but they had no problem passing a $20 million deal, and was going to have no problem accepting 5, 6, 7 million, whatever it was, to help expand their parking deck. They don't have a problem taking SPLOST money when it's something they want to do with it.
Right.
And then one of the things they say is why they can't do 5 commissioners, because it's going to cost so much. We have shown it, the members of the delegation have shown actually how you can actually expand the commission and actually save money while you're doing it.
Right.
It has been shown how you can actually expand this board and save tax dollars while you're doing it by making these positions part-time, and while you also have 2 people right now that are making the salary more than the salary of a county
commissioner.
Well, not the commission, the other one, the county manager.
judge.
You have two people that are paying
Susan.
more than what a county man, Sue Sanderson and Jennifer Rutledge, both make more than what we would pay a county manager.
Well,
So-
did you know this, Larry? That they just bought the Bank of America building
Yeah.
because they needed a vault. Now, the tax commissioner was supposed to go into the judicial complex. So they're taking prime real estate off the market. Same as on Sigmund Road with the Corey project, with the Corey property.
Well, I mean, but Alex, this is something Alex and I've talked about, investigated, and looked at for years. And I'm going to talk a little bit about municipalities and county governments. When there are actually articles and there are actually studies that show that the most common type of fraud that is done by municipalities and county governments, it's through land purchases. It's through backdoor payouts because when they do land deals. Why do you think the county all of a sudden wants to get in the land business? They don't really want to get in the land business. They want to purchase land so somebody might get something on the back end. It's what it's all about. When you do forensic audits and you do the research, that's why they don't want to do a forensic audit.
Right.
You do a forensic audit, you might find out the numbers don't match up, right?
Exactly.
So,
Look at who owns the land. Look who they're buying it from. Take a look at what's that park they bought?
Costly Mill.
Costly Mill. They paid well over fair market value for that property. I know this because I know the family that owned it. I know what the fair market appraisal was for that property, and they paid well over asking. And that doesn't account for the total $4 million. Part of that, if you remember, Larry, was a loan they already had that they had to refinance in.
They refinanced and bundled.
Right.
Refinanced and bundled.
They couldn't afford to service that separately, so they had to bundle it all together. And it ended up being like $4.5 million or something for the purchase of Costly Mill. But it's ridiculous.
We kept the open records request. Somebody will put it up there.
I want to go back to the SPLOST real quick though, Larry, because I have a theory, and I haven't vetted any of this. I haven't verified any of this. This is purely speculation, because I think the SPLOST is going to be their main. I think their plan is for the SPLOST to be their main source of funding for overages and issues on this project. I've
said that all along, Alex. I have actually told Bill Campbell that.
Well, they've rewritten the way the SPLOST was implemented to where they didn't have to list projects, right? Mm-hmm. So theoretically, anything could be a SPLOST
They
project.
generalized it.
Yeah, and I have a feeling the reason they're only taking out $110 million in bond debt is because that's most likely the limit of what they can actually borrow at this point. And so SPLOST, I think the SPLOST is gone. So forget fire trucks, forget police cars. I think the SPLOST is earmarked for this Oz's Taj Mahal.
Yeah, but all this goes, this election. Let's go back to this election a minute, right? So this election could throw up a monkey wrench into this whole plotting and scheming, right? Because you've got the chairperson and the chairman. Oz knows he's in trouble. Sherry realizes that, that the people aren't happy, they're in trouble. You've got, 5 people running in each one of these races. They're definitely going to go to runoff. And if I was a betting man, I would have to bet that neither one of those 2 incumbents are going to get those seats back. So it messes up this future plan. And then it comes into, what do these new people that come in office, how do they handle the mess or the hand that they've been dealt? Right, Alex?
Do they come into it believing that their hands are tied and that there's nothing they can do? Here's the thing, and I hope all candidates running for office realize this. Contracts were made to be broken. They just were. And if we have broken ground on anything, it will be a perfect opportunity to either patch up the mistake, maybe finish a small section of what they've begun, and then rethink the rest of it. We still have Parker Road. Yes, they've built a sand volleyball court there where the courthouse would be. But you know what? A sand volleyball court can be easily filled in.
Oh,
True.
Sam,
Not
you
difficult.
take some heavy equipment over there in 10 minutes. That's gone.
Yeah, you can, based on my land plan, they can keep the tennis courts. You can keep those. Those can stay. That volleyball court, I'm sorry, but that would have to go. Sorry for the ones of people that go over there to play beach volleyball. You know, I hate to inconvenience that person. But yeah, Parker Road is still there. It's still a perfectly viable solution. And the people running for office understand that contracts were made to be broken.
And we still own it. And this thing about it, you and I've told this to many people, right? And I've had some people that are running for office and other things say when they were at the groundbreaking the other day, they recalled a conversation I had, and I said, it's only a done deal if you want it to be a done deal. I've dealt with government contracts for 30 years now, and I've never did a contract or worked on a project that it wasn't altered, change orders, if it wasn't reduced, increased, and most of the time they're reduced. I'm doing a project right now for an airport authority, Alex, and they've reduced the project by $10 million.
Right.
Right. And we bid that work. That work was let, and and we budgeted for it, but they came back and said, hey, we're going to shift this money to another project, and we're taking it off of this project. So this $10 million is not going to be done. They can do that. They can do that every day.
Let me publicly say this. I was on my phone, but people were asking for the link to this show so they can come on. But can we move on to a little more about Sherry and Oz and their personal? I mean, I just want to share this with, maybe these guests weren't on the other show.
Sure.
Sherry, we already know about her being disbarred, but she also was served eviction at her current address, 1501 Callaway Loop, 2014, 2015, 2021, and 2022. I can't say this word. It was a warrant dispository. That means that she went to court and they were serving to evict her, but evidently she paid, okay? So, and then Oz Nesbitt, where his campaign office is on Salem Road, he's going to have a cigar bar. He had a contractor renovate that, and he did not pay him $19,000, which is in court records. And that's as of August of 2023. The point I'm trying to make is that if your personal life is in disarray, how can you handle millions? And these are things that I look at when it comes to candidates. Yes, I've been to the court records on you, Larry. I investigate because that says a lot about the person. And we need to keep that in mind, that we're trusting somebody that can't handle their personal business. How can we trust them to handle the county millions?
Right.
I just needed to get that out.
Well, I mean, I think when we're looking at these guys, it's very apparent, but it's even beyond that, right? They don't really care that they've got an agenda of their own. Alex said it earlier. They've got an agenda. They want to accomplish these things. And I think Oz wants a big building over there with his name on it.
Right.
I think he wants a Taj Mahal with his name on it. That's what he wants, right? He wants a building with his name on it. And
you think he's gonna put his name on it, Larry?
Oh, yes, I do. Alex, do you think he's gonna put his name on it?
I have a feeling, yes.
Yes.
At least one part of it.
Yeah, his name's gonna be on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Oz Nesbitt Administrative Complex.
Oh, if I had to drive around and see that thing, see that name, I'm gonna have to leave the county.
Or there'll be a plaque over there. A lot of times it'll be up there and it'll have him and the other two commissioners that they were the drive. They'll have a plaque that they were commissioners and built it. It's going to be that's going to be there. That's the part of the intent, right? That people, a lot of times people in government, they run and they want to leave a legacy. I can see him as an individual who wants to leave a legacy. That's what I say. Do you see that, Alex?
Yeah. This is his legacy. which is why I think they're in such an awful hurry to break ground, so that they break ground while it's Oz Nesbitt, so that it is Oz Nesbitt's, love child.
Alex, have you seen the retreats?
Have I seen the retreats?
The money,
Yes.
the money.
Yes.
No, the money they spend on the trips. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Shop the Rock, but you spend $78,000 outside of the Rock, taking business away from local businesses that could cater to them.
Yeah, when they used to go out to Lake Lanier and we would get those records and those costs and bring them back, wouldn't we? P cards is an interesting thing to look into. Their county credit cards. That's always fun to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, and they did a lot of things with those in the past, and they were never up and up with them, and they would always have good reasoning as to why they abused them. If you remember, Alex.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but it's always been interesting. So Corliss, we've talked about Oz and Sherry and all those shenanigans, and then we look at education in Rockdale.
Yes, I was gonna say, let's go there, Larry.
So we look at education, and Alex and I had an hour and a half talk about education last night, right? But we look at education in Rockdale County, and we look at people not wanting to move to the county, people moving away from the county. And one of the big factors of people moving out and certain people not wanting to move in, it's the education.
Right.
Because we've had a plummeting educational system for a decade now, and we've got a group of people who are in denial about it. Anything about it, you'll have even this Board of Commission criticize the education in this county. Have you both of you heard that, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, we got 23% of elementary school students tested at or above the proficient level, and 15% tested at or above in math. 35% of middle school students tested at or above, and only 39% of high school students tested at or above. Those are low numbers, very low numbers. But I do believe that if our superintendent was in the county, he'll have a vested interest. And I do believe that we have 4 board members. Unfortunately, nobody's running against Pam Brown, but we have 4 board members that need to go because they're letting Oates run the Board of Education, and that is not the way it's supposed to be. We need, I see the dog. We're going to vote for Larry.
There is a candidate running for post 2. Right here he is. His name is Tucker Cox. He is the write-in candidate for post 2. Don't forget, Tucker Cox is running for post 2.
Yeah, but there's some changes that need to be made. He just got a $285,000. Well, he got a pay increase now. He's at $285,000.
Plus, he got a bonus.
Give him a new SUV. Then he got a bonus. And we have a failing school system. There is a problem there. In the central office, 53 people or employees are making over $100,000. There is a serious problem in the Board of Education, and that needs to change.
Thomas Brantley's made a point here, right? So, and he and I have talked about this before too. If a lot of you don't know, Thomas was the former chairman of the NAACP here in Rockdale County. So Thomas has actually said this many a times that the person who is the superintendent not only needs to have a background in education, but he feels they also need to have a strong business background also. He thinks they need both to be able to be the superintendent, to understand business, to understand dollars, and to understand education. And I tend to agree with Thomas. I think you need more of a well-rounded individual to be the superintendent of schools.
Look at CJ's comment. Yeah, teens coming to Quick Trip.
Yeah, CJ says when teens come in at Quick Trip, they can't back change because the registers at Quick Trip don't tell you what the change is. You have to figure it yourself. And kids coming in to get jobs there are unable to do it.
Yeah.
Which isn't surprising because we looked at some data last night. And for example, Rockdale County High School, its math proficiency is 7%. That
Wow.
means, just so everyone knows, that means that 93% of students couldn't tell you that 93% of them are not proficient at math.
Well, and that, let's just break it down a little further. That means 93 out of every 100 students
Wow.
can't do it. And when you break it down actually to people, 93 out of every 100 students
Can't do math.
can't do math. And that's a real number.
And that's Rockdale County High School's actual math proficiency.
But this is the problem, and this is what I've said, and this is reality. To fix a problem, you have to admit you have a problem.
Exactly.
Because if you don't admit you have a problem, and you don't work on that problem,
Exactly.
the problem will continue to exist because you're not acknowledging there's anything to correct. And because what I say is this: you have a majority of the board and a superintendent who are more concerned about the perception of education than the state of education. And that's the reality we're living with in Rockdale County right now.
Yeah, and that perception ties into a statistic they're very fond of using. And this goes to what Joy Powers is asking in the chat. How are these students graduating? Well, the school systems have taken to using graduation rates as a metric of success for some reason, even though a teacher will tell you it's possibly the worst metric you could ever choose to use, because you can graduate a ham sandwich. And that's what they're doing. They're forcing kids through the system with absolutely no understanding of the subject matter, graduating them so that they can say, hey, we have an 87% graduation rate.
Right.
Alex, this is I've talked to educators. Okay. This is the reality is this. They're told just pass them, you can't fail them.
Right.
Just pass them. You can't. It's not like they don't give letter grades anymore anyway, right?
Yes.
So they don't, so they don't actually. So Angela Asperino, a former educator and principal in Rockdale County, read what she just said. I'm going to put it up on the chat right now.
No student fails.
No student fails. And that's the reality we're living in. We just had a Henry County teacher who was fired 4 years ago, just won a lawsuit in Henry County because she refused to give passing grades to students. She just won a six-figure lawsuit, and she's running for the Board of Education in Henry County. She refused to give students passing grades who had failed, Alex, and was fired because she failed to follow that direction.
It's ridiculous.
And that's the direction. That's the direction that this administration is giving their people. Now you got to remember, the school board. Once the school board passes policy, they pass the curriculum, and they pass the budget. They do not have power in the day-to-day operations, or they do not have the authority over any teacher or administrator or parapro or janitor or bus driver. There are only two people that the Board of Education employ. They employ the county attorney and they employ the superintendent. Those are the two people. That's why it is vital that school board members go to the school system and observe policy and process. They observe the curriculum being taught. They observe how the monies are being spent for themselves. Because unless they do that, they don't know that what they're passing, what the budget and the curriculum and the policy, they don't know if all that's being adhered to, and they don't know if it's working if they don't go and observe.
Right. Cheryl in the chat is pointing out how if you go to Georgia's Department of Education and you look up the stats on Rockdale County, how they differ from the stats that Rockdale themselves put out, Larry.
Because they're not massaged.
They're not right. The Georgia's Department of Education doesn't massage their numbers the way our superintendent does.
He massages the numbers to get the results that he needs.
Yeah.
Massages the numbers to get the results that he needs. And that comes right back to that denial that there's a problem with the educational system in Rockdale County.
Well, and it comes back to the fact that we have members on the board that allow him to do it and get away with it.
That's
We
what I
have
was
members-
going to say. They don't go look on the Board of Education themselves. They just doing another chairman. They believe what he says.
Mhm.
You got to remember, you've got board members who actually believed they couldn't have town halls. They believed that because they were told that.
Right.
You have board members who believe there was a state law that said they couldn't go to the schools, and they believed that, right? They believed that. So
we have a board member who believes that they lowered our taxes.
Yes.
We have a board that actually said, we've not raised your taxes. The county has. We lowered your mill rate.
She said in the last 8 years, we have lowered your taxes.
Yeah,
She don't even know. I don't even think she's looked at the tax digest. Maybe we need to send it to her. But I noticed since you said that about the town halls, the other candidates, you have educated them, and the other candidates are now on board with doing that as well.
They are. And you know, we need town halls. We actually need to visit the schools. We need an advisory council because we need input from the community, the educators. Everybody needs to have input. What research that I've done across, when I've researched across the country, the most successful school systems have buy-in from the community because the community is allowed to be involved. They have buy-in from the teachers because the teachers are involved. The school boards, the members actually are encouraged to go to the school so they can see firsthand what's going on. But that's when you have an open and transparent school system that will acknowledge when they're having difficulties, and they acknowledge the problems they have, and they find a solution to correct it. That's what we don't have in Rockdale County.
And forgive me maybe for being a bit too jaded on this, but they may say they're on board right now while they're trying to get reelected.
Exactly.
But I don't trust them. They need to be replaced.
It's not really the ones trying to get reelected that are on board. We have Justin Kenney, who is on, and he is on board. You can tell by his
Justin
actions.
is, but I don't consider Justin running for real.
No,
Justin's running for his first election.
He is,
right.
And then you've got Tanae Davis, right?
Yes.
Tanae is running, against a Palmer, and Tanae is totally on board with changing what's going on. No, Alex, you're 100% right. The incumbents that are actually running, they're not on board with any of this because they, to this date, have not acknowledged there's a problem. The last thing that they showed up to, they doubled down on that. This is not a failing school system. One of them said, somebody has been saying that this has been a declining system for a decade. That's me.
No, Larry.
And it is.
The last thing they showed up to was McCart Landing.
Yeah, I know.
And they didn't come to the forum at the Korea Academy. None of them showed up, Alex, except Justin.
Yes. Yeah.
No, and but when at McCart Landing, one of them said this. They said that at these forums, somebody has been saying that Rockdale County's been in a declining school system for a decade, and that person is me. I have said that. Alex, you pulled up some numbers last night. Do those numbers verify what I have said about Rockdale being a declining system for a dozen years?
I don't know if you can see that.
I can see it. Yeah, the graph goes down.
That's the graph of Rockdale County's school system from 2015 through 2023, and it wasn't doing great. It was barely over 50% statewide, but we were in fact in the top 50% until 2017.
In 2018, something happened, right?
Yeah, we got a new superintendent who drove it down even further, and it's been a constant decline ever since then. If you take out I'm not going to eliminate the outlier 2021, which was the COVID overreaction, because that was quite a large dip. But if you average that graph out, it's just a continual decline, and it's not picking up. It's not getting better.
Well, no, Alex,
There is zero improvement.
And in a 3 years time period, we went from 17,000 students enrolled in Rockdale County school system to 15,000 students enrolled in Rockdale County. We are on a steady decline. The Atlanta Regional Commission and the Census Bureau, you go look at both of their statistics, and you see that Rockdale County is an aging population county, and the individuals moving to Rockdale County are an average age of over 55 years of age. Right. 55 and older do not bring children to put in a school system. There's a reason why you don't have 25 to 35-year-olds moving to Rockdale County. It's because the school system is in disarray. That's why they're not coming here.
I will say that if a member of the Board of Education, one of the long-term incumbents, if they've said we don't have a failing school system, I suppose in fairness, they're right. We have a failed school system, and now is the time we have to begin trying to turn it around and fixing it. And that requires replacing the superintendent.
Right. Well, Alex, I even made the comment where I said the Rockdale County school system is in steady decline, and they denied that. They rebuked that and said that this school system is not in decline. So they are in total denial.
They don't know what's going on. This is why you need to be able to visit schools. This is why you need town hall meetings.
Alex, there's no reason you can't have a town hall. And
you know
no
what I'm saying? This is why you need to visit schools.
Well, right? When I'm elected, I will visit schools. I will go to town halls. And I will make the motion to pass the policies that actually make it an enabling act. That there's no question, right? There's no question. This is the policy for board members to visit schools. Let's just put it out there so everybody knows it's a real thing and it's going to happen, right? Right. Don't be sneaky about it. Nobody behind anybody's backs. Right. These guys are going to come visit, and this is what we can expect the future to look like.
Yeah. Have you ever, in your career, Larry, have you ever managed or ran a project where you did not put eyes on the project?
Never, Alex.
Never.
And I could not imagine it.
You would never consider it, right? It would be inconceivable to try to run a project without looking at the project. That's what this Board of Education is doing. They're trying to run a project, the schools, without setting foot in a school.
Well, what they're told is if they do that, they're interfering with the day-to-day operation. And that's, Alex, that's just BS.
That's an intimidation tactic.
That's an intimidation tactic. You know what? You know me, Alex. You think
you won't be intimidated by that?
No, that makes me want to go even more, right? Because the Jedi mind trick. Larry,
then the superintendent will set his secret police force on you.
He will. Well, this is something too, right? So I do know that the superintendent has sicked the attorney on some board members before saying they were in violation of the ethics policy. Do you know that it's not the superintendent's authority to actually do that? It's the board's authority. So the superintendent doesn't even know his own job, and the board doesn't even know that the superintendent can't do that.
And what ethics policy is he talking about? Is he talking about the board norms?
No, there is an ethics policy. I'll send that to you too, Alex. I actually have that. I have it right here. I keep a copy with me at all times because I don't refer to it as the ethics policy. I refer to it as the Superintendent Protection Act because in this document, students or a school is mentioned like 2 times, but the superintendent is continually mentioned and about how you don't tread on his business. You don't question what he says. I mean, how is any of that on my ethics when it's all referring to what I can't do to him or can't say to him?
Who wrote that? But did the board write that ethics policy?
The board. Let me tell you how things go here, right? The superintendent's staff writes stuff and they give it to the board and they sign off.
And they rubber stamp it. So what happened here effectively is the employee wrote his own terms of conduct, gave it to his boss, and told his boss, you need to sign this.
Exactly. That's a good way of putting it. Exactly.
That's exactly what happened, Alex.
And people wonder why we want to replace these incompetents.
Yeah, yeah, and you've read the norms, and the norms are exactly the same way. That's just a continuation of the Protection of the Superintendent Act, right?
Yes. Yeah, it is. And an advancement of DEI.
Yeah.
And that's
So
which is why they're passing students with, failing students. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It's all about DEI these days, and as long as your focus is that, your schools are going to fail. Teachers aren't at any risk here, right? Teachers' salaries are safe. What we're proposing is trying to fix the schools to make them better for kids. Nothing is going to affect the teachers. In fact, it will make things better for teachers. They won't have the fear of retaliation, the fear of reprisal that they currently experience. They'll be able to actually do their job and feel satisfaction about graduating kids who are prepared to go into the world, instead of having to put any, again, poor analogy, but any old ham sandwich through the system. It's
what I intend to do as a board member is to actually help teachers, right? I don't want to cut anything from the school. Justin has actually described it perfectly when he said we need to build this budget from the school up, not from the district office down, right? So we need to prioritize with the teachers, the parapros. We need to build the budget starting at the school system level. So that's imperative to do. We need to do that.
right.
When we start building a budget the right way and we zero out everything, start from zero and start building that budget the right way from the schoolhouse up, then we know where every dollar is being spent, and we can be efficient with that dollar, and we can be responsible with those dollars. Right now, we're not being efficient, not being responsible with the dollars that we're spending in the school system, and that's the problem we have. So, guys, let me tell you, I think we've been on a long time.
A long time.
So let me tell you, tomorrow, early voting, right? I'm going to vote, and I'm going to tell you guys how I intend to vote for the school board because it's near and dear to my heart, right? So for post 1, I intend to vote for Larry Cox. For post 3, I intend to vote for Justin Kinney. For post 4, I intend to vote for Darlene Smith. And for post 5, I'm going to vote for Dr. Tanae Davis. And there's a special candidate running for post 2. And right here he is, Tucker Cox. I will be writing in Tucker Cox for post 2. And he's not only going to be on the ballot here, but word is on the street from the street committee that Tucker is going to be getting votes for some offices up in Minnesota. So Tucker is an international candidate, an international figure. There's nothing I can do about it. He's just very popular and people like him. So, but but it sends a message. Let me tell you what, if this little Chewini gets 300 or 400 votes, that sends a protest message. Alex, does it not?
It does.
It sends a protest message. If a little Chewini dog gets 300 or 400 votes, that sends a message we're not happy at all, right? And guys, and that's what we need to say. We need to send that message, but we need to send that message that the school system's not okay. And if we change these members, because this is what I say, we've got to change the leadership at the top, because poor performance in the classroom is a direct reflection of poor leadership at the top.
Exactly.
So let's vote to make change the makeup of the school board, and we'll be able to change the direction at the top. We change the superintendent, and that begins the process to acknowledging we have problems in Rockdale County and coming up with solutions and fixing those problems in the Rockdale County school system. That's all I got to say. So
no, you have more to say, Larry, about the ballot. What should they choose? And that the judges and the BOE is decided in the primary.
Well, I do want to talk to you about something, right? So I want to talk to you about the crossover voting and who people should vote for and how they should vote. Guys, we all in this county should pull a Democrat ballot. There are no local Republicans running for anything. If you pull a Republican ballot, you are wasting your time. You're going to answer some non-binding questions, and you're going to vote for 2 people that are running for Congressional District 13, which neither one have a chance to win in the general election because District 13 is an 82% Democrat district. There is not one single Republican that will be on this local ballot. So the winners of the Democrat primary will move on to the general ballot, will be unopposed, and when they cast that first vote for themselves, they win those offices. So if you want to actually have a say as to who is going to represent you locally as your commissioners, as your judges, as your board of education members, as the sheriff, as the tax, as anything, any county elected official, and you don't pull a Democrat ballot, then you're taking your voice off the table. If you want more explanation of this, go to the rockdalevoter.com, and there is an article on the website that explains this in detail. But it is very important that you, citizens of Rockdale County, vote in the Democrat primary, because that's the only way to make change. I'm going to close out by first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let each of you have a couple of minutes, close out, and then I'll end the show. Cordis, why don't you close out with a couple of minutes here, and then we'll let Alex say a couple of things.
I just want to thank you, Larry, for having me on the show. Thank you, Alex, for the great compliment. I consider that a great honor coming from you. You can be rough sometimes, but thank you. That's not a negative thing.
No, I know. I take that. I take that in the spirit that it was intended, and I appreciate it.
Yes, for you to say that, that's what I'm saying. But anyway, I want to just reiterate what Larry is saying. It is very important to vote in the primary. It begins tomorrow at 8 a.m. at 1115 West Avenue, and it goes until May the 17th. And then on May the 21st is the primary election day at your precinct. So we need to turn out in the primary in order to make a difference in the county. And as Larry said, we all need to request a Democrat ballot. And that's it.
Alex?
Well, I simply came on to thank Corliss, and I really, really hope that the people of Rockdale County appreciate the resource they have in Corliss Turner, the work she's done, the effort that she's expended to put this organization together, and of course this extends to everybody who is a part of the organization, the people on your board, everyone that is involved now, and shining sunlight on the nonsense, as Larry likes to say. Corliss, you're worth your weight in gold. Thank you so much. Don't move. Don't ever leave Rockdale, because you know what? This county will be worse off for it if you decide to. Keep doing what you're doing. You're absolutely amazing.
I've met some amazing people too.
There's some fantastic folks here in Rockdale, and some bad politicians. We're a community of wonderful people and terrible politicians, Larry, is what we are.
I agree, 1,000%.
I have Justin Kenny coming on my show next Saturday, Larry. I have Brian Jenkins coming on the show Wednesday night. So
I've had several people reach out to me about the Brian Jenkins thing, Alex. Just so you know, right? There was like, where is Alex's mind with this? And I said, I think we're going to find out on the day that he does it. Now, what day are you having Brian on?
Wednesday. He'll be on Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Okay.
8 p.m.
And then Justin will be Saturday at 8 p.m.
Okay.
I'll definitely be there.
Looking forward to both of them. But thank you. Cool. I appreciate it, Larry. Thank you, Corliss.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you all have a good evening.
You too. So I want to just thank these two guys for coming on here tonight. It was a really good show with bringing this mix in. It's good to shake things up. We had a really good audience tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight, because without the audience, the show can't move forward. Without you and you spreading the word, you sharing the show, because I do know that this week from Rockdale is excellent water cooler talk, because people talk to me all the time about it. People watch the they watch it afterwards because they watch the recordings, because I'll just run into people all over the place said, I know you, I've seen you on the internet. So so guys, we do a service here, and I just have enjoyed every bit. And let's let you guys know, I'm going to continue doing the show when I win this election, but I will probably not be able to talk about the Board of Education when I do the show. But that just means that I'll be able to talk.
Already weaseling out of it. Look at
No,
you.
All right.
No, I probably won't. But at my town halls, I will.
Yes, that's why I've said you will.
Yeah, at my town halls, I will, and I'll probably have some virtual town halls. But the show itself won't be dedicated to Board of Education issues. I'll do special things to do that, right? But hey, that just gives me more airtime to make sure the Board of Commission does what they're supposed to do, right? But I really want to thank everybody and I want to thank everybody for the commitment that they have, and just all the well wishes I've been getting about running for office, and just the emails and the messages I've been getting on the phone. Thank you, every single one of you. The next 3 weeks are going to be crazy. And I just appreciate everything that you guys are going to do for me. And I just thank you in advance for everything that's going to happen. So I want to thank you all. Good night, and thank you. And I will see you a couple of days this week. I'm not decided which days because I got to reschedule Arlan. So it'll probably be Tuesday and Thursday. Know that Alex is going to be on Wednesday. So I'll probably do Tuesdays and Thursdays this week to do some interviews on some people I've got to do to catch up, and then we'll make it roll. Thanks, everybody.